Now the natural and the spiritual needs are met within and without this garden. Now, creation prior to the fall was governed by the spiritual nature. Not just in man, but in creation. And man was under that governing at that time. Everybody understands that. That's why before the fall there were no thorns, there were no thistles, there was no death, there was no decay. None of these things were prevalent or on the earth, present on the earth, because the earth was under a spiritual governing. It was governed by one side of this, though both sides were there. What I'm trying to say to you is this side was like that, and this side was like this. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? This was dominant. This governed. This was there for a purpose. But it was subordinate to this. That was the way God created things. That was God's purpose in creation. Man's highest nature, then, was spiritual. In fact, this is the very mechanics of the flow. The very mechanics of the flow out of the garden was the fact that man was spiritual, and he would take that which life of God and take it out to the world. So what man was, actually, was he was a spiritual creature capable of doing natural things. Spiritual creature capable of doing natural things. Now, in the fall of man, what actually takes place is man loses his compatibility to this realm. God makes him compatible to both realms for transit. When man falls, he's no longer compatible to this realm, so he can no longer enter into that realm. Do you follow me? What this actually does is it creates the redistribution and the adjustment of the realms in creation. Through the natural man becoming dominant, the natural world becomes large. And when the natural world becomes large, the spiritual world becomes subordinate to that dominant natural, and it becomes very small. Now, man must be excluded from the garden, cast forth, because at this point in time, what would happen would be the natural man would bring what is of him back into the spiritual realm. It would cause a backward flow of what God's purpose is to flow out. It would cause the world to be brought into the church instead of the church out to the world. And when this happens, man becomes natural, handling spiritual things, instead of spiritual, doing natural things. The dominance is changed. Because man is not able to partake of the garden, his primary realm now becomes natural. And all that was supplied by the spiritual realm, now he must look to the natural realm to supply those needs. This is a product of the fall. Now, when the primary realm becomes the natural, it is simply for one reason. The primary senses that man uses to navigate and to understand are natural senses. The fall made your 5 natural senses primary to you. This is the definition of darkness. If darkness darkness is the inability to comprehend light, and if the natural cannot comprehend God, then what we're looking at is the five senses are darkness. Now the problem is greater than man himself, because man now being cast out of the garden, creation no longer can have the flow of life which God intended, because this flow is restrained by man being out of his original purpose. Separation from original purpose in man is the ceasing of the purpose of God in creation. This is God's reason for redemption. It is not to save you so you can go to heaven. It is not to give you what you want on earth. It's not to make you happy. It's not to make you healthy. It is to restore man to his original purpose for the resumption of God's life flowing to the world. That life will do what it did before if the church will loose it and let it go. If God is going to redeem you and me to His purpose, it is going to require a readjustment of those realms. If He's going to restore us to original purpose, it will only be through readjustment of those realms. Anything short of a readjustment of those realms is short of redemption. In John's Gospel, the 3rd chapter, from the 3rd verse, Jesus answered and said unto him, Verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. Nicodemus saith unto him, How can a man be born when he is old? Can he enter the second time into his mother's womb and be born? Jesus answered, Verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born of water and of the Spirit, he cannot enter into the kingdom of God. That which is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the Spirit is spirit. Understanding that the kingdom of God that Jesus is talking about is this realm of the unseen. And Jesus said that a man must be born again to that realm if he's going to see it. If he's going to enter it. And he says that which is flesh, that which is spirit is spirit. It's speaking of the duality in you, of man. Now with the new birth begins the adjustment of realms, or makes the adjustment of realms possible, and it begins redemption. But the only thing that makes you spiritual is compatibility to that realm. And the first thing that must be dealt with is a perceptual. He said, you've got to see what's already there. That realm is already there. Everything needed is that garden